and foremost, we are gonna say all praises be to Yahweh
Our
Ba'Shem,
Hashem, Yahweh Shai,
Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Makal
Shemaka
Kadash,
Kadash.
and then we're gonna say double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the sincere, elect teaching us truth and faith and sincerity. And we are back here with another lesson, you know, um, and this lesson is gonna be centered, Lord willing, like in the spirit of just seeing different accounts, like in the scriptures and in history of the 12 tribes of Israel being very kind of influential in different kingdoms and different rulerships, you know. And if we even look, you know, throughout history, man, the 12 tribes of Israel are truly, a special people. And we've influenced, all of these kingdoms, like in all of these nations and everywhere we go, like even if we're beat down or in slavery or whatever, Jake's shine because, you know, Jake is special, man. Jake, Jake,
Mm-hmm.
Jake, Jake has that glow about him. You know what I mean? And even our forefathers, great men like Joseph, King Solomon, of course, you know, David, and uh, there's so much, Moses, you know, Daniel, of course, and the three holy children. Jake always stand out and stick out, and
Yep,
really,
got a quick one.
it's just sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, when you're done, so I got a quick one.
Yeah, and sometimes what can happen is sometimes Jake can kind of like get lost in history, and what I mean by getting lost in history is that you have like a prime example is Imhotep in Egypt. Imhotep, right? As we've been taught by apostles and elders and down, him and Joseph are are the same person, and it, like Imhotep, if you read the comparison and Joseph and their lives and what they did, you would know that is the same person. But like a person that studies ancient kind of Egypt would then read about Imhotep, about oh my god, he's just some great guy, and he was just some guy in Egypt. He was an Egyptian, he was blah blah blah, and get and think that's not a part of the scriptures when Imhotep and Joseph were the same person. You know what I mean? It's like let's say Daniel and the three holy children. They're also like was known in their time for being wise presidents and stuff, rulers. You know what I mean? But people don't even talk about that. And then even if it's further back into the future, from that time, you can even have somebody like Cornelius. People will hear the name Cornelius and say he was a centurion, and automatically believe that you know what I mean, like he's an Edomite, not knowing Jake has been in all these empires. But yeah, sorry, bro. Go ahead.
That's right. This is Matthew 5:13. It says, "Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have
Mhm.
lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is
Yeah,
thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men."
yeah, yeah, and us being the salt of the earth starts off with the brothers, man. Those that have the word and truth. But even if you extend it to a wider nation, we bring the flavor upon the earth.
That's
And
it.
when
That's it.
and when and when we eventually rule, you know, when the Lord establishes his kingdom upon the earth, people, you know, this earth is going to be made beautiful, man,
That's
and
it.
beautified. You go ahead,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, because I was gonna say it's like when you when these heathen look back in the kingdom. like look back at this world and the kingdom, it's going to be, oh, yeah, of course, they're the Israelites. Like I've thought
Yeah.
about this a few times before. Like I remember, you know, you hear Eve singing sometimes. I remember it was like Georgia Smith. I was hearing her sing, was listening to her
Mm.
songs, and it was just like, bro, of course, with the Israelites.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
If not
Yeah.
where, if not where, and who is he? Like,
Yeah.
if they say
Yeah.
Jacob, if not where and who?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and it's like sometimes people think, oh, we are trying to make everybody like an Israel. Oh, so they're just trying to make everybody Israelite. No, just because we're the biggest nation on the earth. In fact, even if you want to get like the scriptures on us being scattered and us being, more, basically multiplied. You know what I'm saying? Like we are really the biggest nation. In fact, that's the scripture speaks about us in Genesis being a nation and a company of nations shall come of thee, which applied unto us, because each tribe of the 12 tribes is that big that is considered its own nation. You know, I mean, even if you look at the northern tribes, Asher and what I mean, and all them other tribes, you'd be like, raw. These are just grand, Native Americans. Even though like Esau, did a lot of slaughtering, still, still a big, nation. It's kind of like it's seen as its own people when really it's just multiple tribes.
Yes, sir.
You know, go ahead.
Says Deuteronomy 28 and 64 says, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right?
and we've truly been scattered amongst all people, and it's like that's why the Lord is going to gather together His elect from the four corners because, brother, a lot of our people, oh, all of our people are so far re- re- removed from being Israelites. You know what I mean? It's like there's, even in the deepest cave of Afghanistan, man, there's an Israelite over there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Even yeah, go ahead, bro.
It's like, because you know what it is. Once again, it's like one of the things the Spirit has me say is Jake sometimes forget the world that we live in today. The point I'm trying to
Mhm.
make about that is like, for instance, we both know a Jake, right? That he's in the middle of Japan somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right, and it's like, bro, what you doing? And it's not like Tokyo. It's like where
yeah,
he is. It's not like Tokyo. Like Jake always ends up in Tokyo. He's just in some
yeah,
place in Japan because he
yeah.
met some chick somewhere, fell in love, and then he moved over to where she is. And this is
Mm,
what Jake has been doing for millennia. You think, and one of the things that I think about as well is, for instance, the scriptures talk about certain spices, right, and herbs and stuff like that that aren't native to Israel, right?
mm,
So that makes me think, okay, cool. That implies what? Trade routes. That implies someone that's gone on a mission, right? And then you know Jake sees some fine ass strangers, to how you call it like strange. So it's like, oh snap, who's that?
yep,
Looks different, hair's all different, skin complexion's different. She looks at you a certain way, and Jakes goes in onto her, leaves
yeah,
seed, and then comes back to Israel. Or maybe not. Maybe he's like, yo, I'm cool, right?
yeah,
And Jake has been doing this. Well, that's the point I'm trying to make is you look at certain of the people that we know in our own personal lives.
mm,
We can see that this has happened today, and this would have been happening back then. Jake loved
yeah,
women. Well, we ain't like
yeah,
Esau.
yeah,
Scripture
yeah,
says
yeah,
two manner of nations are in the womb.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's like, and it's something that, like I always say, Jake don't know how far the scattering goes.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Jake's like, yeah, man. I have a friend. He's mixed race, so called. Yeah, just he's a couple minutes away, bro. Do you realize, like, remember when Joab killed the men of Edom? and then they took the woman basically. He obviously didn't kill all the men in Edom because just like you have Jake's guy, the that Edomites, scattered at the time who wasn't necessarily there to be slaughtered because the Lord had a storyline for that nation
Hmm.
ultimately, so that line had to keep going. But Joab, he slew all the males of Edom like at that time. So what do you think Jake did with those women that was left over? Hi, no, those getting it in,
They said
and
hi.
yes, you know what I'm saying, and it's like that was back then. So if they was among the children of Eden back then, they could have looked different from then. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Before we even get to Greece and Rome and that. So imagine by the time of Rome, like they might just believe they're Edomites completely. They might look just like Edomites completely. So that's the purpose of this lesson. Bro, can we get our first uh Chronicles 17 and 21? All right.
This is First Chronicles 17 and 21. It says, "And what one nation in the earth is like thy people Israel? In the Most High went to redeem to be his own people, to make thee a name of greatness and terribleness, by driving out nations from before thy people, whom thou hast redeemed out of Egypt."
Mm. Speaking it, bro.
Yeah, and that's it. And there's direct precept to Deuteronomy 7 and 6, as you see that, right? Because it's like when you look at our people, when you look at what we are capable of, once again, it's this idea of when these heathens look back in the kingdom, they're gonna be like, look, these are the chosen people. It's like right now, we're under the curses as a nation, but even under the curses, right, you can see Jake be thriving, right? In terms of just like the spirit, right? You can see the spirit coming out of Jake, right? And this is
Yeah.
us in our lowest state. So imagine when we're all righteous as a people, right? So the Most High is only dealing with the children of Israel, right? And when it says redeem, in fact, let me look at this word here, redeem, right? Usage is okay, so it's a slightly different one. I was wondering whether it was the same word as you see in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, right? When it's basically saying, and no man shall buy thee, right? Because that word buy in Deuteronomy 28 and 68 goes into redeem, right? But basically it's the Lord has chosen us to be his holy people, his separate people. Okay.
Mhm. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
So
Because
yeah, I mean,
if I was to
no,
say,
go,
the thing
bro.
is, of that greatness and terribleness, that is not of ourselves either, right? Because when you read Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, right, speaks that the Lord is going to do all of these things, not for us, but for his name's sake, right? Lord is not even saving us for us, he's saving us for his name's sake, right? But in
Mm,
us being great, in us being terrible, right, is ultimately all to just give glory and praise to Yahweh Shem Shai.
that's it. That's it. That's it. All right. So with that, can we bubble shot get the quote of the second president of the United States, John Adams? Now, quick, I don't know, disclaimer. When he's making his quote, he's thinking about these small hats, but he's obviously re- reflecting, you know what I mean, in history, you know what I mean, as well, and has probably seen a correlation of how the Hebrews, which it means really means the Hebrew Israelites, have as a people we've influenced, you know what I mean, a lot of people, man. I mean, even Abraham, there's if you go into the Josephus, talks about his time in Egypt and how his wisdom was just blowing them away. You know what I mean? And really, you know, it's like everything came from Jake, man. You know what I mean? Even the bad and the things that are bad and the things that are good, man. Like we always talk about Greek, Greek gods and mythology. You know, these stories that you hear about, it is from Jake. You know what I mean? Even Islam, like it was just the wicked Roman Catholic Church fathers back then, which is Jake, that was going off, man. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, so
Pretty
Jake has had a lot of influence. Yep, good.
says you said everything came from Jake. So Baruch 3, start from
Oh
35,
yeah,
36.
that's spirit. I was actually going to ask you to get the scripture. That's
You
it.
can. Says, this is our power, and they shall none other be accounted of in comparison of him. He hath found out all the way of knowledge, and hath given it unto Jacob his servant, and to Israel his beloved. Right? And it's like we've all been doing stuff at work, or if say you're creative, you be whatever it is that you're doing, but just in general, as Jake, we'll just be doing stuff, and then every now and then the Lord will just bloop, plant. You feel it. It's like, oh shit, where did that idea come from, right? And it makes me
Hmm.
think of that word inspiration, right? To breathe in, right? If I remember correctly, right? But basically, it's like the Lord is the one that gives knowledge, and He gives that knowledge to the children of Israel. Now, you may be like, oh yeah, but like for instance, no disclaimer, I like comedy. I pretty much have watched everything on Netflix. But so I tried that new one that just came out. Jeff Ross, I think his name is, the guy that always does the roasts on Netflix, right? But basically, like in it, like the first couple of minutes, he's speaking about, ironically, technically, actually, this kind of topic, right? But he's talking about it from his perspective as an Amalekite, and he's saying,
Hmm.
look, basically, Amalek, we've created everything,
Yeah.
right? So someone in the world may be like, well, actually, no, these other heathens, they're the ones that are credited for creating all of these things. But it's like when you understand, um even just because there are other aspects to it, but even just from the perspective of patenting things, right? For the
Yeah.
longest time, Jake wasn't able to patent things. When you
Yep.
look at when you sign a contract to start a job, or you sign a
Hmm.
contract for a university, I'm sure is pretty much the same thing, right? Your name doesn't get added to the inventions. Now they may add you, but you read in the contract that everything that you do is property of the company. So
Yep.
when you have the break, and Jay, we've all seen this. Jake
Hmm.
might have just an inspiration. Oh, could probably do this, right? And then that ends up being successful, moves the needle, as they say in corporate speak, right? But guess who gets the credit for it, right? Someone else.
Hmm.
Okay. Scripture says, made no account of his labors.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Right.
That's right. So let's read this quote of this former president.
This is from John Adams, azquotes.com. It says, I will insist the Hebrews have contributed more to civilized men than any other nation. If
So
it was
again,
debate,
he's talking about the small hats, but in spirit, we know that this really fits the people of the Most High. Because guess what? These imposters influence the world in terms of wickedness. Damn sure.
mhm,
If you go into these companies, right, that bring hell and toxicity to the earth, yep, them small hats are undisputed. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
But if we talk about being as civilized, you know, all attached to science and mathematics, wisdom, it's all from Jake, man. Even if we look at King Solomon, right? That's right, brother. That's one of the
brother
scriptures.
jumping the gun.
Yeah, the brother jumping the gun, but nah,
Mhm,
brother, keep posting it. But you know it's interesting because yeah, like when King Solomon was ruling, people came to him with questions. You know,
mhm,
parrot like people came from afar because his wisdom was vast. It was
mhm.
nothing like the earth had seen before
That's
for
right.
that time. You know what I mean? And because the spirit of the Lord was with him, and it was
I-
really a shadow of things to come because bro, because in the King Solomon's kingdom, which we know, how shy, right, is King Solomon. When he comes back to establish his kingdom, We the Israelites are going to be the rulers of the world and judge the world. You know what I mean? And all these nations are going to come to us, as it says in like Isaiah 2, to hit to follow the learn of what I mean our ways. But that's why the scripture says we ain't going to need the sun or moon to shine on us in the kingdom because we're going to know we're going to have the wisdom, man.
Yeah.
And the Lord is going to be our light because the sun and moon represents wisdom. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to be just fully perfect, like aligned with wisdom. So when these other heathen rulers in their little regions come up to us, we're going to be able to judge perfectly and give them the answers. Oh, how do I make my crop more like efficient? What mineral is my soil missing, or whatever it is? You know what I'm saying? That's how it's
Mhm.
going to be.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
also I was gonna say it's like and when because he's talking about when these heathen nations came to King Solomon, and it's like, yeah, they came to him and he gave them true wisdom, true knowledge, right? As our reasoning, I don't know, it's rather recounting a story with the brother last week, right? Recounting a story of how I remember, like a Professor Jang, like it was this Moab, I was listening to this Moab geezer in it, right? He was a
Mm,
philosophy student, and you should have seen the pride oozing off of this guy, right? As if
mm,
he knew something. You hear him, he's trying to sound
mm,
smart, he's trying to sound like he's speaking wisdom, but he was talking a pile of bollocks, right?
mm, mm,
Whereas what we're and that's what the scripture refers to as the wisdom of this world.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
right?
You
But the
know what?
wisdom of this
Sorry,
world
bro.
is foolish. Sorry,
No, no, sorry, bro. Go ahead.
well, we'll say, but just to complete the quote in the precept, but the wisdom of this world is foolishness with the Most High.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm,
what we're going to be bringing in the kingdom, right? Starting off with Yahweh Shai, right? On down, it's like we're going to be bringing true wisdom to the world, the,
mm-hmm,
the, 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 the wisdom that this world needs.
mm-hmm.
Okay, you know,
That's right. In fact, can you get the word civilized, the definition, and then read this quote again, and we're gonna go into it because it's very interesting if you go into the word civilized. I mean, I might get my
where
kick.
specifically?
Yeah, sorry.
Where specifically? In
No, just
etymology,
just
dictionary?
find something. Just find something, and I will. Even if it's in AI, you know, what I mean, and I will quickly read my example here. It says to civilize means to bring a society or person out of savage, rude, or uneducated state into a more refined, organized, or developed one. It involves teaching improved manners, education, or social structures, often aiming to create a more polite and calm behavior. And bro, that's what the Israelites are going to do. This the elders like in Dallas always say that the earth needs new management.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like really, and I'm sure this brothers knows as well. In some companies, your team is only as good as your manager. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That's part of being a manager is to like try and get the best out of your staff and actually helping your staff to excel under your management. But Esau's managed the earth, and look what's gone on. It's a shit.
Hmm.
It's a shit show. Literally, the world is a ghetto. Like yo, the world's a ghetto, bro, because of Esau. All right, yeah, time, bro. That's. I mean, you can read that as well.
Yeah, I mean your one was better, but it says simply in the Cambridge Dictionary to educate a society so that its culture becomes more developed.
Yeah, yeah. Which really the true culture that's gonna cu- cultivate this and renew the earth is the Israelite culture. You see, of how it's supposed to handle things. But it don't mean they are going to be made equal to us because we as a nation is going to be perfect and they're going to be under us. So yeah, let's read this quote and we're going to go through some examples.
It says, I will insist the Hebrews have contributed more to civilized men than any other nation. If I was an atheist and believed in blind eternal fate, I should still believe that fate
Exactly.
had ordained the Jews to be the most essential instrument for civilizing the nations.
Which
They are the
again,
most.
this guy was a Zionist. If you look it up, this guy was a Zionist. So he's talking about the swines, but we know it really he's talking about us in the spirit, right?
Yep. Says, I should still believe that fate had ordained the Jews to be the most essential instrument for civilizing the nations. They're the
Hmm.
most glorious nation that ever
Central
inhabited this earth. The Romans and their empire were but a bubble in comparison to the Jews. They have given,
See,
which,
see, now he's talking about the Roman Empire, but then he references Jake back then. But we know, even we know back then it was us like in our land, even though the northern tribes were already on the other side. You know what I mean? Okay.
yep, says the Romans and their empire were but a bubble in comparison to the Jews. Says they have given religion to three quarters of the globe and have influenced the affairs of mankind more happily than any other nation, ancient or modern.
Yeah, and it's true. You know what I mean? You know, from that like the Noah, you know, Abraham, David, all these key figures. It's like that line of wisdom comes through us, and even the ones that's wickedness or righteousness. Jake's influence just makes things go on, man. So here, obviously, he's a touching on the small hats, but we know it applies onto us, and it's a fact. Jake influenced fucking everything. Like if we
Mhm,
look at the earth now, the culture, the so-called culture, the music, it's basically it's just Jake stuff that everyone's bitten on. Like even something us two brothers always talk about, bro. We always mention about how poor, poor, like Jake poor clothes, like poor Jake clothes is now the fashion sense. It's called vintage
mhm,
now. Jake, making FUBU or baggy jeans or Jake. You know what I mean? Jake was wearing uh, oversized shit primarily because Jake's mentality was shit, man. I got to buy a couple sizes up because I'm gonna get a bit bigger and grow into it. You know what
yep.
I mean?
But a lot of the time it was big bros clothes. Like
Yeah, it was
hand
Big
me
Bros
down.
clothes. It was passed down, and
Yep.
then now you got these little the dainty white girls, right? What wearing
Yeah.
Jake swag. Because a lot of them are Jake, but even other Edomites do. You have Edomites just in Jake fashion.
For
You
sure.
have you know uh, the Japanese, Korean fashion sense. It's a lot of them are Jake, like obviously, but all throughout Earth, because that's our spirit. So
Mhm.
if we influence Earth so heavily now, what do you think we was influencing back then?
And on that influence, Earth, bro. Most nations know us as just being slaves.
Yeah.
I remember when Kim reasoned about it a while back. You have a whole host of people that just know the history of the so-called African American as slave. You were
Hmm.
slave, now you're not slave,
So heavy.
now you're an EBT.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You have a whole load of nations that think
yeah.
that is our story, but we're so much more. But even in that estate,
We're still
even in
influencing.
that estate, still influencing people, right?
Yep.
To the end that Esau, once again, it's like Esau has created entire structures and systems to basically make us to keep this perception of Jake ain't shit. Excuse my French, but that's what it is, to keep that image afloat in the world, right?
Mhm.
You think about all
Yep.
of his Hollywood movies, right? I mean, that's a remember how Jake felt after, which was nonsense, but remember how Jake felt after Black Panther.
Mm.
Yo,
Yeah,
Jake
yeah,
was
yeah. Just Jake was walking around with the kente cloth and
their head held
going in.
high, back
Yeah.
straight, no arch shoulders, no nothing.
Hmm.
Right now, imagine that has been an Edomite every single day. He wakes up,
mm,
oh, I'm Superman. Oh, I'm Batman. Oh, I'm Jesus. Right?
yeah.
That's what the Edomite has done with his witchcraft, with his Hollywood, etc., etc., etc. Whilst each time they show Jake, drug dealer. He's
Mm,
not a drug dealer. He's a rapper.
mm,
Right? That's why it's one of the reasons. Yeah, Esau's just a jealous, piece of X, Y, Z. But like, that's why it is always a wonder. Oh, what do you do? You have anything nice? Oh, what do you do?
mm.
I work
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you, bro. Shut up. 50, 60 hours just like you, bro. Chill.
Yeah.
Let me get some of
Yeah.
these on the comment board. So after you do,
Uh,
bro.
yeah, Bob Shaw, can you get the book of Lamentations, Bible Shaw, get Lamentations 2 and 15 on down to 16.
Lamentations 2:15. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth?
See
All that
the joy of the whole earth. Can you go into the word for joy? Let's just see what it says there.
so delight concretely the core, so it's like a H4885 Masawas. It says from there, it says delight concretely the cause subtle or abstractly feeling joy, mirth, rejoice, exaltation, joy, rejoicing.
Yeah, so anything that makes I mean happy, the joy of the whole earth. And it's like if if it's more efficient for you to farm this way, is it not going to make you happy? If if a group of people, are so talented in music or strongest warriors or men of wisdom, is that not going to make you happy? Of course it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's really our legacy. And it's just that a lot of it is lost in history, and also it's missed profiled. What they say. It's like, bro. Like as you know in football, and as well, even the brother on the comment board now knows what we're talking about when they say a player is being misprofiled. It's like you think that's what he is, but really he's really like you think he's a striker, like like sorry, like Martinelli. You think he's a winger, but really he's a striker.
Mhm.
Or you think he's a right back, but really he's a centre back. And in terms of what I'm talking about, with Jake, you think we're niggas, even though a lot of us are acting that way, but you don't know that we're the special people of the earth, man. And then you read these stories, Spartacus or Spartans, or you read about Imhotep in Egypt, or you read like the Greek Stoics and sages. The sages of Greece. Like
Mhm.
A- A- Aristotle and stuff like that, which he was a teacher to Alexander the Greek. But Aristotle was a Jake.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? A lot of them Stoics and and stuff. Some great writers that we read today. Even we read about Marcus Aurelius, right? With his writings, the meditations, and wow, he's so stoic, and people, have it on their caption, and you got these fucking Edomites thinking it's an
Yeah.
Edomite conqueror from back then. Well, it's like, no, that's Jake, bro.
Mhm.
That's us, bro, and it's been us. Like Kendrick made that song. They not like us. They not like us. It's
Mhm.
real. They really not like us.
That's it.
All right.
Yep,
So
and it,
let's
it goes it goes it
let's
goes into fucking touch, and maybe might help someone, in a professional setting. That's one of the reasons that Jay you be catching hell at work because your manager's looking at them, looking at you, being like, "Wait, there, I've been told you ain't shit."
Hmm.
Why am I not seeing that? Why am I getting threatened? Why are your ideas making sense? Why
Yep.
is it that I'm like, yo, and worse, see, oh man, let there be a pretty looking woman that's into you, whether you like her or not, it's out of the matter. If she's into you and he finds her attractive, your working life is hell. You know,
Yep.
it's just because Jay, we the best. You know,
Yep. Good.
verse so back in Lamentations 2:16 says, all thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day we look for. We have found, we have seen it.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
Right. So that's it. It's like, also going through that again, right? Because there was a time when everyone knew who we were. Right now, it's sort of like the elites of these different heathen nations. They know who we are, right? And then they're looking at us like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, they've been trodden down, okay, but we are still these people. In fact, is that's Isaiah 1, isn't it? It goes into that. Oh, snap, not 8:1, Isaiah 1, right? I think what a bit further down from I think it was from here. Yeah, let me read into it. So Isaiah 1, and look at the title, right? Because in fact, that's one of the words in the precepts we started off with, right? Redeemed, right? It says Zion corrupted will be redeemed, right? And this is it. We were brought low, but the Lord this was all a part of the Lord's plan. Okay. So let me Isaiah 1 from 21 says, how is the faithful city become an harlot? It was full of judgment, righteousness lodged in it, but now murderers, right? You think about the precept that's coming to mind at the moment is, can these bones live? Right? You be looking at what some of these Latin tribes be doing. You're like, damn, here it is on the Saturday. We're out there telling the world, hey man, we the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, right? And then people go home and they just be watching the crazy stuff that Jake be doing, right? So we have fallen, right, from our righteousness, right? Now our nation's full of people that ain't gonna make it. Let's just put it like that, right? Scripture says of America that two parts therein shall be cut off and die, right? Referring to two-thirds of our people in that land, right? So it says in verse 22, thy silver is become dross, thy wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. Everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widows come unto them. Therefore saith the Lord, the Yahweh of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. Right? And I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tin, and I will restore thy
Mm.
judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness.
Mm.
Right. So,
Fine.
but yeah, it's point just making that it's like, right now we're in a lower state, right, very lower state, but the Lord is going to wash, is going to cleanse us, right, and ultimately we will be redeemed.
That's right. So, bro, let's get the. After going into it, let's you read a bit of the chat GBT examples, and then we're gonna go into the scriptures on Joseph, Moses, and a couple others.
Yep. So this is
Because
so
basically,
that
what I was doing was I was asking chat, yeah, uh, uh, like I was asking chat about basically giving examples of Israelites of influence in foreign empires at different times in history. Yeah, good.
yep says yes, that's a fantastic topic. The idea that Imhotep, the Egyptian architect, physician of Vizier, what the hell does that mean?
Advisor, advisor.
A
Look,
high
look at it.
official in some Muslim countries, especially in Turkey under Ottoman rule, right? So high official, right?
Yeah.
This is under Pharaoh Joseph, and Joseph, the Hebrew patriarch who became vizier under Pharaoh in Genesis, might be the same person. Is one of those theories that blend biblical history, Egyptology, and
Yeah,
military debates.
and and, and if you look into the etymology of visor, it's like it says meaning a helper, a aid, or one who bears a burden. So Jake would get responsibility in his empires. Jake will get responsibility in his rulerships, which is why Cornelius being an Israelite, like if you grasp, if one first of all, if the Lord is dealing with you and you actually grasp history from the scriptures, that's where you begin, and you read secular history, marrying it with the scriptures, you know Cornelius being an Israelite isn't far fetched, bro. There's
Mm.
historical precedents, and him being just because he's a centurion and he commanded men. Well, duh, because Jake is the best warriors. Like a prime example, a quick a side note, which later on we can read about him. Well, a man named Tiberius Julius Alexander, when we was being conquered in 70 AD, he was an Israelite, and he knew he was an Israelite. By the way, he actually Tiberius Julius Alexander was basically like what they call you can say like a Greek speaking Jew. He actually came from like a well known family, but he basically didn't embrace that side really. You know, he's basically like a Israelite who knew he was an Israelite, but he was in the world and training against Jake essentially. You know what I'm saying? But when Titus and them Vespasian, he was one of the main generals that was coming against us, man. And there's accounts talking about how he felt bad, but he just did what he had to do. He actually played a big part in us going down in 70 AD. But again, he was a man in a high office in Rome. So why is it so unbelievable to believe Cornelius is that too? When there's many examples of that, starting with one of our forefathers in Egypt, Joseph. Go ahead, bro.
Yep. Says here's a quick breakdown of how that idea developed. So the theory says some researchers and biblical theorists argue that the biblical Joseph was a Semitic man who rose to high rank in Egypt after interpreting Pharaoh's dream. So the Egyptian Imhotep was a commoner who became Joseph's vizier, designed the step pyramid at Saqqara, and was later deified as a wise man and healer. Because
Hmm.
both are credited with great wisdom saving Egypt from famine and serving a pharaoh early in Egyptian history, some suggest they're one and the same, or at least that Imhotep's legend was inspired by Joseph.
Yeah, and bro, as we've been taught, they are the same. Look at their lifespans. But Joseph, if we go into it, it breaks down how he built storage basins and you know dispensaries. Literally, he built dispensaries of how the pyramids and stuff was laid out, whereby people would actually go into booths and they'd be waiting for their daily feed basically, and and he was second to Pharaoh, only in rank, but Pharaoh essentially gave him the kingdom. He said, "Just rule it, man,"
Mhm.
because he saw that he was blessed. Like that. That basically, if you work with him, you end up blessed basically, and things just run smooth.
And once again, it's like this will be something that Akim have experienced, right? Where you are at you'll be at the job, right? And then the boss is just like, you know what, I'm the manager, but actually, nah, he knows what he's on,
Mhm.
right? He's like, this Jake knows what he's on, man. Right. So then you
Yes.
just kind of get left to more or less run the company or
Yeah.
run whatever department that you're in. Right. And then yeah, big boss ultimately makes a final decision, gets all the credit, right? But people knows like, nah, he's star, as they say, he's star boy, you know?
Yep. Yep. Go ahead.
So it says the problems. It says, however, mainstream Egyptology, right, does not
I
equate
mean,
these diseases.
just like I mean, I was asking a lot of questions, so just skip to the named example. So we went to Joseph, go to Moses, go to whoever, and then we gonna go into it.
This one, Joseph, Moses, Daniel, that one.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, so it says, what was that?
Because I was basically trying to
Shalom
call the
Zakwan.
chat. Hey, hold on, Melda.
Hey, Shalom, man. Yo, Bashim Yashai, Warakah, Kadash, Rakatah. Salakia, man, I'm just on the plantation. I'm listening to you, brothers, man, going into this information. It's beautiful stuff. I just wanted to add the system of Edomite supremacy, man. It's been a
Mm,
consistent psychological operation to, deter Jake from reaching their potential, especially
mm,
intellectually, which there's still been a lot of Jakes who have and have contributed intellectually to this man's society, but they don't get no credit. But the
mm,
entire system is designed for Jake not to achieve their true potential because
mm,
when it comes to intelligence, we're superior to Esau.
Mm,
We're actually the high IQ people. The Israelites are the people with the natural talent to be the rulers of the earth. We were
mm,
created for that purpose. So we have the potential, we have the ability. Esau is the least likely. He has the least likely characteristics to be a ruler, and that's proven itself to be the case because he's about to blow up his own shit.
yeah.
He's a monkey with a chemistry set. That's all he is, man. He ain't the guy. See, the system of Edomite supremacy is a lie. It's a psyop. It's a gaslighting. Jake don't have the intelligence. No, you ain't got the intelligence. Because if we were so stupid, you wouldn't have to undermine us. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to set up systems to keep us down and undermine us. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, it's good that you brothers is bringing out the information because we at the end, the man of sin is being revealed, and it's time for Jake to wake up to who we are, who our power is, man, and have confidence in our power, man. To hell with Esau. Esau's a monkey with a damn chemistry set and a gun. That's all he is. He's DEI. He's a DEI ruler.
That's right.
You know, that's all I wanted to say, man. I'm on the plantation. You brothers is getting my getting me fired up, man. But yeah, you brothers got it, man. I'm jumping out.
Shalom Zakwan. Yeah,
Hey, shalom, yo, Bashim Shabbat, shalom.
shalom. That's it. That's it. That's it. Can I remove you? I don't know if I can remove you myself or no, but like I could do that. Could do that.
well, that's everything all right with the elder.
Yeah, no, I was saying he was going to jump out. Or let me just one sec. Yeah, but do you want me to remove you?
Khan,
All right, shalom. You're good. You have a shalom.
Yeah, time. All right, that's it. So yeah, so yeah, go on, bro. Read through that.
That's it. So it says, so where were we? Says, exactly. That's a very insightful observation. You're touching on a recurring biblical pattern where righteous men of the Most High rise to positions of political or administrative authority in foreign empires, often during times of national crisis or transition. It says the
Yeah,
biblical pattern.
because we're natural leaders. We're natural leaders, and we are natural leaders because we are gonna lead. Starting off with our Lord, how shy. We are the rulers and leaders of the earth. So that's why Jake can be in Egypt. And here it is. He was there in prison, and then next time you know it, he's second in command,
Mhm.
like of Egypt. Go ahead, bro. Into the next one.
Yep.
Just yeah. Go ahead.
So it says the biblical pattern, the godly wisdom in foreign courts says throughout scripture, several key figures, Joseph, Daniel, Mordecai, Nehemiah, Ahika from extra biblical sources, and even Moses in some sense followed a shared archetype. says the
Mhm.
righteous servant of the Most High rises to prominence in a pagan empire through divine wisdom and integrity. So it says Joseph in Egypt, Genesis 41, rose from slavery to Vizier in Egypt, interpreted Pharaoh's dream by divine insight, administered the grain reserve that saved nations during famine. Says
Mhm.
a Hebrew governing a major pagan empire, yet remaining faithful to Yahweh.
Yeah, and really, after the Lord destroyed Egypt when we left, it was never the same. Like really, the golden age was really with Joseph, really, because that's how they got rich as shit. You know what I mean? Imagine you being preparing for this, because Egypt already in that region was like a breadbasket. So it's like when they had the 7 years of plenty, it's like, all right, the Lord has given me the interpretation. But hey, if these Hebrews are so wise, why did they need him to? Why did Israelite need to break down that dream when with Daniel?
Hmm.
Why did he need to give the breakdown? Because the Lord is dealing with us. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
Right?
Yep, goes on to say Moses in Pharaoh's house, raised in the royal Exodus 2 to 12, raised in the royal court of Egypt, trained in all Egyptian wisdom, Acts 7:22, says later became the liberator of Israel, showing that the Most High can use someone formed inside the system to reform and deliver others from it.
Yeah,
Um,
and even to touch on Moses, people like I believe Moses when he like left basically Pharaoh's house. I believe if I'm not mistaken, he was about 40 years old, right? And if brother can double verify that, you can. The scriptures does mention. I just can't find the verse right now. But point is, when he was, people forget that Moses was raised as Pharaoh's grandson, so he would have had teachers and tutors and been coached into to one day rulership, or at least for the very least, like a position of leadership in Egypt. And if you go into the Josephus, which that's uh, uh, actual kind of history, but it even touches on how he had certain war campaigns, and he was famous for like doing great deeds in Egypt. Right? Go ahead.
so it says Moses was 80 years old when he returned to Egypt and confronted Pharaoh to demand the release of the Israelites, according to Exodus 7 and 7. His life is
Hmm.
commonly divided into three 40-year segments, which is spiritual. It says 40 years in Pharaoh's court, 40 years in Midian, and 40 years leading the Exodus.
Yeah.
Um,
So the first 40 years of his life, bro, do you think Moses was just 40, just eating popcorn in Egypt, basically out of shape, and just a low life. You only see these rich billionaires kids. Whoa. Well, I mean, even prime example is Joe Biden's son. Here he is. He just had money all his life, so he's just on crack. Imagine that. The president's son's on crack. Former president's son
yeah.
is on crack. No, when Moses was in Egypt, which let's actually, instead of following structure, bro, can you get the example like in Hebrews? Let's just go to his example, and then we'll flip back to Joseph. But when he was in Egypt, he had like a rank in office. You know, this guy is gonna be one day our ruler, and he just you know what I mean. But when he was in Egypt, he had influence. He was known for his wisdom and such. Remember, even as a child, they saw him and said, "This boy's a goodly child." And in spirit, the same thing was said by David, man. You know, if you know, you
Yeah.
know. Go ahead.
So it is Hebrews 11 and 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not
Mm.
afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of the Most High than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for
Yeah,
he had for he
yeah,
had
bro.
respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible.
That's it. That's it. Um, let's go to Exodus 2 and 10 on down. And much appreciated to all the brothers on the comment board posting the scriptures. Post them more, man, because you eventually gonna go through them. Go ahead.
Yep, so it says Exodus 2 and 10 says, and the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses, and she said, because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked unto their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses
And
feared and said,
yeah, it's funny about Jake, man. Jake talk shit. But instead of being spiritual, man, oh man, this guy say, this guy stopped our beef. This guy's a ruler in Egypt, but he's thinking about us. Jake.
yep, yep. So it says, I'm sure, so, and Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he
Yeah,
said,
man. That's the point, and the point I wanted to touch on was him of how he was raised. He was raised up in Egypt's house. In fact, if you want, we can quickly ask chat. What are the key points that the Josephus mentions on Moses' influence in Egypt? Again, we all know this is extra kind of history. We obviously know that the Josephus isn't just it's got a lot of good information in there. Which is something that our apostles have mentioned to us to read. But obviously, we know our main foundation is the scriptures, right?
yep. So it says Flavius Josephus discusses Moses mainly in Antiquities of the Jews and against Appian, where he presents Moses not just as a biblical figure, but as someone who had a major impact on Egypt. His account mixes Jewish tradition with attempts to appeal to Greco-Roman audiences. Here are the key points. It says Moses as an Egyptian education and as Egyptian educated leader. Josephus emphasized that Moses was raised in the Egyptian royal court and educated in Egyptian knowledge, science, military strategy, and administration. This portrays Moses as a highly competent by in Egyptian standards, not an outsider. It suggests Egypt indirectly shaped Moses' abilities, which he later used to lead the Israelites. So his
Mhm.
military achievements for Egypt. It says Josephus adds a story
Yeah,
not found.
let's not forget in the scriptures as well. When we was coming out of Egypt and we was just in the wilderness, there was certain military campaigns that Moses led. The scripture actually does speak about it. So like it, bro.
Yep. It says a military achievement. Josephus adds a story not found in the Bible. It says Moses led an Egyptian army against against Cush. It says he is said to have won a major victory and even married an Ethiopian princess. It
Mm.
says implication Moses contributed to Egypt's military success and security, enhancing his prestige um, within Egypt. Um, a threat to Egyptian power. Despite his earlier services, Josephus says Moses became viewed as dangerous. The Pharaoh feared his popularity and leadership. This led to hostility towards Moses and eventually towards the Israelites. Religious
You
and
know, bro,
philosophical.
read Numbers 31 and 48. Numbers 31 and 48. He actually gives an example of his one of his battles. You know,
So Numbers 31:48 says, and the officers which were over thousands of the host, the captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, came near unto Moses. They said, and they said unto Moses, thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and there lacketh not one man of us. We have therefore brought an oblation for Yahweh, what every man hath gotten of jewels, of gold, chains and bracelets, rings, earrings, and tablets to make an atonement for our souls before the Lord. It says, and Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold of them, even all wrought jewels, and all the gold of the offering that they offered up to Yahweh of the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds was 16,750 shekels.
kind. I mean, that hits the point. I believe in Numbers 31 and 14 as well. It just gives you a picture as well.
Um,
Um,
so this is Numbers
you know,
31.
actually, start from verse 1. Sorry, because it basically touches on the slaughter of Midian.
Numbers 31 says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterwards shalt thou be gathered unto thy people. And Moses spake unto the people, saying, arm some of yourselves unto the war, and let them go against the Midianites and avenge the Lord Yahweh of Midian. Of every tribe 1,000 throughout all the tribes of Israel shall ye send to the war. So they were delivered out of the thousands of Israel, 1,000 of every tribe, 12,000 armed for war. Says, and Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 of every tribe, them and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest to the war with holy instruments and the trumpets to blow in his hand.
Yeah,
And they were
so basically he was basically like a prophet, a lawgiver. You know what I mean? Which really, is from the Lord, of course, that used him. A military commander. You know what I mean? Because people might paint their picture in their head of just Moses. He like he wasn't, well spoken, and nah, he actually, was up there, man. Even in combat, he actually led it. That takes a special man, a thinking man, especially with all the hell he was already getting with Jake. You know what I mean? And the Lord used him. So, we've touched on Moses. Let's just read a bit about Joseph as an example, as an influence. Because otherwise,
Yep.
man, if we focus on everybody too much, man, this this video gonna be 5 hours long, right?
So back in chat, right?
Yeah. And then we're gonna get into Joseph. We're gonna get to Daniel and a couple others. Right?
Right, so it's Daniel. It says cat we read Joseph first. This is Daniel
Yeah.
now. It says captured as a youth, educated in Babylonian learning, rose
Yep.
to be chief of the wise men and later governor under Nebuchadnezzar and Darius, known for interpreting dreams, prophetic insights, and integrity. His story mirrors Joseph's almost beat for beat.
Mm.
Um, Mordecai and Esther in Persia, as his Mordecai saved the king's life, later became second in command to Ahasuerus. Esther
Yep.
became queen, interceding for her people. Together, they turned a decree of destruction into deliverance.
Yep.
Right? So you get the story of Purim. It says
Yep.
Nehemiah in Persia. It says the cupbearers to King Artaxerxes. It says
You see
uses
that? You see that? It's just like the Lord again. So the picture brothers are trying to paint. It's like you just see how Jake, even in different empires and kingdoms, even in the statue of Daniel, because like remember we have the whole period of the Maccabees brothers and the Maccabee family in general, and then we have you know many men that were Israelites that was around. Remember, again, we even mentioned Alexander the Great, who was taught at the feet of Aristotle, man, who's a very wise Greek sage, which he was an Israelite. And then we can even mention again the Spartans, who were famous to this very day. Spartans was some crazy ass warrior jakes, who did do some freaky shit sometimes, but still Jake, and they're still mentioned to this day. But again, that even the Spartans is an example of a group of Israelites that got lost in history in terms of being Israelites. Because if we know, what does the scripture say? What's that, bro? Is that first Maccabees 12 when it speaks about the Spartans and the Demonians and the Jews are brethren. I'm gonna look for it real quick. Let's get First Maccabees 12:6, and then First Maccabees 12 and the 21st verse.
Says First Maccabees 12:6 is Jonathan the high priest and the elders of the nation, and the priests and one of the other Jews unto the Lacedaemonians, their brethren, send greeting.
You see? Now go, bro.
There were letters. Yeah, that's yeah.
And then spit and no, go on, bro.
Okay, it says there were letters sent in times past unto Onias the high priest and Darius, who reigned then among you, to signify that ye are our brethren, as the copy here underwritten doth specify.
Yeah, so the Spartans were Jakes, but there was another group of like this. This happened so many times in history, where people might read of Marcus Aurelius, this great conqueror, that great conqueror, this that, and give credit unto the heathen when it's Jake, man. Even the Greek stories of fables and Poseidon, all the Rome story is Jake. Even you guys now into Islam, all doing this and shit. You niggas, it was just wicked Jake church fathers, man, who made some shit up. The same thing you know with hell. It's just Jake, man. All right, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, it says at which time Onias entreated the ambassador that was sent honorably and received the letters wherein declaration was made of the league and friendship. Therefore, is that the point that you wanted?
No, go on. There's more in that.
All right. So therefore, we also, albeit we need none of these things, that we have the holy books of Scripture in our hands to comfort us, have nevertheless attempted to send unto you for the renewing of our brotherhood and friendship, lest we should become strangers. It says lest we should become strangers unto you altogether, but there is a long time past since you sent unto us.
You see, and basically, it's very interesting where it's talking about basically let's like reestablish our league, and you obviously and us our brothers. It's like you've just been doing what you've been doing, but let's renew that unless you become strangers unto us. You know what I mean? It's like when you have you know how it is. Like a group of like Jakes or Benjamites might move to Scotland, like their great grandparents will probably have moved there in the 40s, and they've just kind of like been so far away from their culture that they just end up not even really really standing on who they actually are. Prime example. You look at that Jake Ross Barkley, man. His grandfather's a nice guy, but when you're so far away and times pass, you can become a stranger unto your own culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was recently watching a film. When it touches of a period, I believe the 50s and 60s, where you had Jake from Nigeria that would do something called farming, which is when they would let their kids stay with the Edomite family. And sometimes what would happen is like their kids will lose their Nigerian culture and become like basically black Edomites, and then not even want to ever embrace being a Nigerian again. You know what I'm saying? All right, and then read verse Bible Shah, verse 21 as well.
Verse 21. So it is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and that they are of the stock of Abraham.
You see? So Jake, so even that's another group of Israelites that just got kind of people can kind of like losing history. Like like I bet you, man, if you ask a Edomite scholar now, oh yes, I went to Cambridge University, and you say, whoa, so you know the Spartans? I mean, like are they part of the 12 tribes of Israel? No, the Spartans are a warrior, blah, 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 blah. And then you'd be like, what about this then? Oh shit, Jake, man. All right, bro. Let's go back to the list.
Yeah, so this is so Nehemiah in Persia. Says the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes used his influence to rebuild Jerusalem's walls. Example of using political favor for spiritual restoration. Says Ahikar, this is extra biblical but similar, known from the Assyrian Aramaic wisdom literature, advisor to the Assyrian king Sennacherib.
Oh,
Famous
okay.
was
Now, this individual has a lot of interesting kind of history. You know, I've been around him because in the scriptures he's actually known as the nephew of Tobit. You know what I mean? But even in that ancient empire, he had influence. You know, and the scripture I want you to get, Baba Gashar, is Tobit, I believe. Read this, Baba Gashar, in the new, well, the GNT, or the new Revised Standard Version on the Bible Gateway. Go and read Tobit 1:21 to 22, and then read go ahead. Basically,
this is Tobit 1:21. This is Tobit's nephew rescues him. Says about 6 weeks later, two of Sennacherib's sons assassinated him and then escaped to the mountains of Ararat. Another son, Esarhaddon, became emperor and put Ahikar, my brother Anael's son, in charge of all the financial affairs of the empire.
so
This
again,
was
Baba Gashar, can you start it again? But again, it's like here it is. You're reading about the ancient Assyrians and what they did, but bro, those are Israelite there who had a high seat, you know what I mean, an office that people don't even talk about. You know what I'm saying? So when we now, again, I keep bringing it back to Cornelius. When we now say Cornelius is an Israelite, but he's like, well, he's a Roman man. He's a centurion of Italian man. You're like, bro, you are in Babylon with your job. You got a cousin right now in the military doing burpees and pull-ups, playing Tupac and shit like on an army base. So who's to say Cornelius wasn't playing ancient Tupac? I'm joking, but who's to say Cornelius? He's the same. That's Jake's story, bro.
Yeah.
So don't get blurred by names and stuff. Oh, Cornelius, because even in what's that scripture? Is it Hebrews? I believe is it Hebrews 13 when Paul like gives a shout out to many people, and you read the names, and it's all Greek and Romanized names. You see, I mean, I ain't saying get it, but that's my point. So carry on, bro. Can you read that again?
So about First Tobit 1 and 21, the GNT says, about 6 weeks later, two of Sennacherib's sons assassinated him and escaped to the mountains of Ararat. Another son, Esarhaddon, became emperor and put Ahikar, my brother Anael's son, in charge of all the financial affairs of the empire. This is
Mm.
actually the second time Ahikar was appointed to this position, for when Sennacherib was emperor of Assyria, Ahikar had been wine steward, treasurer, and accountant, and had been in charge of the official seal. Since Ahikar was my nephew, he put in a good word for me with the emperor, and I was allowed to return to Nineveh.
You see that? You see that? So imagine Tobit, righteous man of the Lord. His nephew was a ruler. And you know what's interesting about him is like this always happens with Jake in history. If you read his story now, his he was so he was known for his wisdom that he actually in the Assyrian history became like a mythical figure. That's what happens with Jake. Jake, like Imhotep in Egypt, that's Joseph. But then because he did so many great works, and heathens have scribes too. They will write about Jake's life and be like, "Yo, this dude can fly." You know what I mean? This dude was this because that's Jake. Jake is just that good. You know,
Mhm.
Jake now dunk a basketball, and Jake go, "Oh, Michael Jordan, man, oh, Joe." You know that's Jake, bro. And we've done that in many times.
That's
And
it.
certain fears. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
I was just saying, as Jake say, I am that guy.
Yeah,
Jake on in mass can be like, yo, I am that guy. No matter what field, no matter what industry, no matter anything, Jake could be like, yo, I am that guy.
that's it.
Once again, not of ourselves, but of the spirit that's been given into us.
Yeah, bro. Read Tobit 14 and 10, and then read the wiki information. You know what I mean? Baba Shah on a hiker.
So this is Tobit 14 and 10 in the GNT. It says, Tobias, my son, leave Nineveh now. Do not stay here. As soon as you bury your mother beside me, leave. Do not stay another night within the city limits. It is a wicked city and full of immorality. The people here have no sense of shame. Remember what Nadab did to Ahikar, his own uncle who had brought him up. He tried to kill Ahikar and forced him to go into hiding in a tomb. Ahikar came back into the light of the day, but the Most High sent Nadab down into everlasting darkness for what he had done. Ahikar escaped the deadly trap which Nadab had set for him because Ahikar had given generously to the poor, but Nadab fell into the fatal trap and it destroyed him. Right?
Mm.
Makes me yeah, I got that something else, but yeah, let me carry on. It says, so now, my children, you see what happens to those who show their concerns for others, and how death awaits those who treat others unjustly. But now I am very weak. They they laid Tobit on his bed. He died and was given an honorable burial.
You see
Uh,
that?
later,
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
later on, Tobit's wife died and was buried beside her husband. Then Tobias and his wife moved to Ecbatana in Media, where they lived with Raguel, Tobias's father-in-law.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, can, but it's made the point there. It's made a point there. So now let's move to what it says about I mean a hiker in Wikipedia, and we established that he's an Israelite and Tobit's nephew. So read about like a bit about his narrative, his characteristics, and then go to uh later on. It kind of mentions the Bible a bit about certain scholars mirror him as the same person, which the scripture verifies that because Tobit just said it.
the story of Ahikar in the Wikipedia. It says in the story, Ahikar is a mythical chancellor to the Assyrian
You
kings
see what
Sennacherib.
I'm saying? and he's not a mythical child. He ain't mythical. He was an Israelite, just doing his job. You know what I'm saying? But as the stories get told and heathens like his wisdom gets deified, it becomes a myth. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Yep. So it says, is a mythical transfer to the Assyrian king Sennacherib and Esarhaddon. Having no child of his own, he adopted his nephew Nadab, says, and raised him to be his successor. Nadab ungratefully plotted to have his elderly uncle murdered and persuades
Which
Esarhaddon that.
which Tobit mentioned that. He actually said he tried to get him killed. So how's that mythical? You know what I'm saying? It's there. But good.
It says, Nadab ungratefully plotted to have his elderly uncle murdered and persuade Esarhaddon that Ahikar committed treason. Esarhaddon orders Ahikar to be executed in response, and so Ahikar is arrested and imprisoned to await a punishment. However, Ahikar reminds the executioner that the executioner had been saved by Ahikar from a similar fate under Sennacherib, and so instead the executioner kills a different prisoner and pretends to Esarhaddon that it is the body of Ahikar. The
Okay,
remainder of
second. So if you want, uh, go into where it mentions the scriptures bit. If you read down, oh yeah, I believe it's in origins and bit. You know, development.
um So it says some of the sayings are similar to parts of the biblical books of Proverbs, others to the Deuterocanonical wisdom of Sirach, and others still to Babylonian and Persian proverbs. The collection of sayings is in essence a selection from those common in the Middle East at the time.
Yeah,
With the
because I
point,
think because I believe that bit goes into how they say he himself made an ancient book and was known for wisdom, but well, that's not something we can verify. So we ain't gonna go into that. But just I mentioned where it mentions it in Tobit.
says in the Koine Greek book of Tobit, 2nd or 3rd century BCE, it said BC says Tobit has a nephew named Akia Karon. Says in royal service at Nineveh. It was pointed out by a scholar in 1880 that Ahikar and the Achiakaros of Tobit are identical.
Yeah.
It says chief cupbearer, keeper of the signet, and in charge of administration of the accounts under King Sennacherib of Assyria and later under Esarhaddon. Says when Tobit lost his sight, Ahikar took care of him. For 2 years, Ahikar and his nephew Nadab were present at the wedding of Tobit's son. So shortly before his death, Tobit said to his son, "See, my son, what Nadab did to Ahikar, who had reared him. Was he not, while yet alive, brought down into the earth? For the Most High repaid him to his face for this shameful treatment. Ahikar came out to the light, but Nadab went into eternal darkness because he tried to kill Ahikar. Because he gave alms, Ahikar escaped the fatal trap that Nadab had set for him, but Nadab fell into it himself and was destroyed."
Yeah, go
Says the Codex Sinaiticus Greek text, which the new revised standard version follows, has Nadab, the Greek text of the Codices Britannicus and Alexandrinus calls this person
Yeah,
a monk.
I mean the point is made on like on him like in particular. But again, you see, you have an Israelite there who was in the like a Syrian empire who had influence, you know, but just got you could say somewhat say as lost in history, and people will may read about him studying in university, not knowing, bro, this guy's an Israelite, you know. Go ahead, bro. Let's go back to the list.
Yeah, so that was the last one on the list. Says the common thread: these men operated within pagan systems but remained spiritually faithful, exercised divine wisdom, often expressed through dream interpretation, administration of justice, brought the Most High's favor, says served as witness to the nations.
Okay,
Uh,
So even just from the examples we've given, obviously we didn't read about Joseph, but that's, well, I didn't read the scriptures of Joseph, what he was doing in Egypt, but that's a story that everybody knows of Joseph in Egypt, and how the 7 years of plenty, the 7 years of famine, and him breaking down the dreams, and then using his wisdom in the storehouses. You know what I mean? And how it really saved Egypt. We obviously mentioned Moses. You know, when we was coming out of Egypt, we now mention a hiker, which is in the Assyrian Empire. All right, we got Babylon and Daniel, which if we can read that quickly, Daniel. We mentioned the Spartans in Greece, and obviously there are many more other examples, like the Stoics and sages. You know what I mean, like and men who raised up Alexander the Great in wisdom. In fact, um, if you go into the Josephus, it even touches how Alexander had dreams of the high priest in like in 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 Israel, man. And it even touches how he eventually met up with the high priest, which told him, like, it's you that's mentioned, like, in the scripture. So that's why for his lifetime, Israel and him were actually cool until after his death, where it went left. And then we even go as far as Rome, and we even gave the example of Tiberius Julius Alexander. So, as we've mentioned, literally the statue of Daniel, all major empires, Israel has always been there with major influence, showing their uh, uh, wisdom, whether it was for the purposes of righteousness or wickedness. Because, we are the people in which the Lord has given the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to. So have you got the one in Daniel?
You know what? There is the brother actually posted it earlier on. Let me grab the one that the brother posted. This is Daniel 1:17. Says in the NLT, says the Most High gave these 4 young men an unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom. And the Most High gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meanings of visions and dreams. Right. So that's one example there, right? But then you can also read into Daniel the 6th chapter. It says, "It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was the first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, being an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm."
Bro, it's just a common theme, bro. Like, these kings get, get around Jake, and they're like, you know what, bro? Just take the keys. Just take the keys. Look, just make sure I'm good, my family's good. Just take the keys and run the ship. And guess what? We eventually are gonna run the earth because we are the real rulers. Good.
Yep, says then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel according to the kingdom, against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Right. And once again, it makes me think of the fact that, when we'll be at work or whatever the situation, right, these people that are round about us, right, they're always trying to find an occasion against us, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But that's just the Jake story, regardless of what position we're in. That's the Jake story, man.
Yep.
Right.
Bro, Brother Kishar, after your point, can read Daniel 1 and from verse 1 to 17. Sorry, to 7.
This is Daniel 1 from the top. Says in the third year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, besieged it. And the Lord gave Joachim, king of Judah, into his hand, which part of the vessels of the house of the Most High, with part of the vessels of the house of the Most High, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his power, and he brought the vessels into the treasured house of his power. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, then that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science,
See
such
that? And skillful in all wisdom and understanding knowledge and science. You know what I mean? Because, again, Jake might think of science and be like, no, man, that's for Edomites, man. No, bro. What are you talking about? We are superior to Esau in knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and physical strength and beauty. We fucking look, you know what I mean? We're the best people. It's just now we're in slavery. But even think about it, if in slavery we have had all this influence, how much more when we're in rulership? You see? But yeah, I mean, we've touched on that. We've touched on Daniel. Could we just read a little bit of history slightly on Tiberius Julius Alexander, because I mentioned him, and yeah, and then we're gonna close up. There's more we could have gone into, but in the interest of time, order for all the scriptures as well in the chat. If you want at the end, bro, you can pick out a couple, but if not, we gonna close out.
It says Tiberius Alexander, says the Jewish general who destroyed Jerusalem, from the Torah.com. So the most powerful Jew in antiquity, Tiberius Julius Alexander, served as procurator,
Mhm,
so an agent representing others in the court of law in countries retaining Roman civil law of
mhm.
Judea. It says governor of Egypt and general in the Roman army. Without his support, Vespasian wouldn't have become emperor, and his son Titus wouldn't have led the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE,
You see that?
70
So so
AD.
so even that, like, it's like, think about it. It's like, if you know how crazy that is. It's like, like, if it wasn't his influence helping, Vespasian would have become, the emperor. You know what I'm saying? And he played a critical part in taking his own people down. And he knew he wasn't like a scattered Jake that didn't know who, or scattered in terms of not knowing his history. He knew he was an Israelite. He was from a wealthy Israelite family. He knew what he was doing. Can't, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it says, though his uncle Philo and Josephus Flavius may have disapproved of some of his choices, Tiberius acted out of loyalty to Rome, not apostasy from Judaism.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because if you go
besides,
into the information, they said he felt bad. You know what I mean? He actually felt a bit bad, after like it all happened. Good.
yep. So it says, Titus, son of Emperor Vespasian, is widely known as the man who conquered Jerusalem in 70 AD. It says fewer readers, however, will know the name of the formidable military commander who Vespasian chose to assist his inexperienced son in this campaign. Tiberius Julius Alexander, a high-born Egyptian Jew who ranks as one of the most eminent figures in Jewish history. Tiberius's influential family says Tiberius's family had deep roots in Egypt's Fayum region, an oasis circa 60 miles, which means around 60 miles south of Cairo, where many Jewish communities thrive since at least the third century BC, right? Says his father, Alexander, was the younger brother of none other than Philo, the prominent Jewish philosopher in um, Alexandra. Says, as we will see, Tiberius appears as a disputant in Philo's elaborate philosophical dialogues. An affluent and important political figure in Egypt, Alexander was the guardian of Antonia the Younger, the daughter of Mark Antony, and mother of the Emperor Claudius. He also served as Alabarch, a title that many derive from Arabarch, governor of the Arab frontier, and the position.
Even so, he was doing that. So again, why is Cornelius being an Israelite such a shock? Jake been doing this. Jake ain't new to this. The truth of this, say that's
Mhm.
Jake been doing it, man. Good.
Yeah. Um, So it says, and a position normally held by Jews with oversight of customs and taxation at Alexandria. Emperor Caligula apparently saw Alexander as a significant political threat and had him imprisoned. Following Caligula's assassination in 41 AD, says Alexander's friend Claudius became emperor and had him released.
And all this time, he was a known he was a they knew that's an Israelite, man. That's a Jew. He actually grew up knowing he was a Jew. But remember, like he was just doing his job. Rome had the power, and he was just following those that had the power. Good.
Yeah. So it says Alexander was also well connected in Jerusalem and appears to have had especially good relations with the temple. According to Josephus, he made generous donations to overlay 9 temple gates with gold and silver. Says now the magnitudes of the other gates were equal one to another, but that over the Corinthian gate, which opened on the east over against the gate of the holy house itself, was much larger, for its height was 50 cubits, and its doors were 40 cubits, and it was adorned after a most costly manner, as having much richer and thicker plates of silver and gold upon them than the other. These 9 gates had that silver and gold poured upon them by Alexander, the father of Tiberius.
Yes.
Now there were
So that's what his father did. Um. Yeah. I mean, scroll down, Bubble Shaw. I just want to see what it says on the bottom of the page. Oh, no, hold on. Go back up, Bubble Shaw, a little bit. Yeah, go on. Can you just read the bit before 70 uh, AD, and then read a bit about 70 AD? Sure.
this is Marcus Julius Alexander and Berenice. This is Marcus Julius
No, no,
Alexander, the
just
younger
just
brother.
um just the bit where it says Tiberius before 70 CE. Sure.
As in read from here.
Yeah, yeah.
Says, unlike his younger brother Marcus, Tiberius pursued a political career, which in the Roman Empire was closely connected to the military. Says, indeed, Tiberius's family belonged to the equestrian order, whose members, the equites, the equestrians or knights, enjoyed a status second only to the Roman Senate.
You see, so if this is just focusing on one Israelite family, do you not think there was many other Israelite families that was juiced in? I mean, even if you think about it, even though the wicked scribes and Pharisees was juiced in, and you know what I mean. So they was comfy, even though their people was going through hell. Scroll down, Bubble Shot, to 70 AD, because there it says before. If you can scroll down, Bubble Shot, let's see where it mentions. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. There's a lot of information to get through, but it's definitely interesting. But can we, Bubble Shot, end with the two scriptures that the brother posted from DC? Deuteronomy 4 and 6, and Deuteronomy chapters 7 and 6, and we could also read Isaiah 2.
So, what was that?
So could we start off with Deuteronomy 4 and 6, Bubble Shaw, on down, being a wise and understanding people.
Yep, this is Deuteronomy 4 and 6 says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, who shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For
Mm,
what nation is there so great, who hath the Most High so nigh unto them, and who, as the Lord our power, is in all things that we call upon him for? And what
mm.
nation is there so great that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day?
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And the law is gonna go back to governing the earth, which is why we know them small hats ain't the people.
That's
And them
right.
small hats supposed to be the people. So why isn't the earth under the righteous vibration? Because you're imposters. Go ahead, bro. Let's get Deuteronomy chapters 7 and 6, and we're gonna finish with Isaiah 2 and the first couple verses.
This is Deuteronomy 7 and 6. For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power. Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
And it
Yahweh
means just that. Sorry, bro.
says, Yahweh did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people, but because Yahweh loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt.
Yeah, man. So again, we are special people. Above. See what I mean? And it means just that we are above in order, in rank, in everything, in wisdom. But we shall let's go to Isaiah 2.
Yep. It says Isaiah 2 from the top. This is the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
And that's why we always say of the final form of earth is the Israelites in rulership on earth above all these nations. That's the final form. Because I mean, damn, even in our in slavery, we've we still have had influence in these major empires, and still to the very day.
Mm-hmm.
Top leaders and commanders and stuff. But Cam, bro, I mean, is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to say? Order to the older brothers, are watching and posting scriptures, and sisters who may be watching too.
Yeah, I mean, we said it earlier on. It is just this idea of it's we go and look back in the kingdom, and be like, yeah, of course we were them guys. Of course we were that nation that the Lord was dealing with. You know.
Hold up, we them boys. Hold up, hold up, hold up. We them boys. You know what I mean? You know that track. You know what I'm saying? We them boys. It be like that. It be like that. But Cam, bro, anything else?
Yeah, no, that's it, man, and it's that's part of the punishment, right? Once the Lord awakens us to this truth, part of the punishment is just basically then having to walk around seeing these heathens lord over you, lord over us, Salakia, right? And treat us like we ain't like we ain't them the the righteous seed, the
Hey,
Elam lording over you. That's what Ezra said,
fucking
right?
Elam boy.
Yeah, I'll be stupid as hell, right? But that's
Um,
that's just part of the curses.
that's it. That's it. All right. Hey, so with that, we gonna all praises be to Yahweh, Ba'Shem,
Shem,
Shai, Ba'Shem Rakal Kadash.
Gosh.
And then we're gonna say double honors to the apostles and elders of with great millstone, and shalom to the elect.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yeah,
That was from